Good morning, students. I'm glad to be the part of session 6 Project Closure, Ethics, and Digital Management. So, in this session, we are going to discuss the remaining concepts of Module 3. As of the previous session is concerned, we had a discussion on how to evaluate a project report and what are all the rubrics present for evaluating the project and in what frequency the reviews are being conducted and the test period and criticality and categorization and all the levels of scheduling has been detailed discussion has kept you a point of understanding in how a project management is done and the reporting is done. So, in this session, we are going to have a glance on how the report status is being tracked down and who are all the participants of, documenting the entire report, which is highly confidential and both in internal usages and external usages, and how to conduct recommended follow up sessions for reviewing all the management attention towards making the project to not come as a complaint. So the ultimate agenda of making a project management to be away from complaints is highly ethical and highly managerial and highly challenging task. So here it is the point of significances which is recommending the requirements of all the managerial thought process or all attention together, and it is coming as a common function which is making the entire management to be on a screening elements. So when we are conducting a follow up session, it is highly recommended to notify the significances of each and every project which are all moving in a scale process. So that scale process is nothing but how you are going to determine it and how you are going to summarize it. So this is what the entire plot is about, getting into the concept. So for making a project management review, every manager and all the contributors who are all having a distributed contributions which are all in a particular review, it is a loop. If I'm starting this investigation on a particular weekday, that is day 1 of a week, the day 7th of the week the entire loop has to stop, it has to close. So when it is being executed in a loop manner, obviously there will be a transparency and there will be a record created and there will be a stakeholding and there will be a quality assurance, as we had a discussion in the previous session, that is quality assurance. Everything will put forth. Hence, the particular readers and the available people who are all taking the project as their references. Suppose if I'm completing the project this year, and if I'm making a transfer or I'm going in a particular transition, so after 3 or more years, if someone as a stranger coming in, taking the project report and glancing it, he or she might get an idea by giving them a format, by giving them a brief introduction, by giving them a proper executive way. From where I have stopped as a full stop, that full stop has to be converted to comma, and they can execute the same phase in their dimension. So when I'm analyzing the risk, when I'm analyzing the finding, when I'm analyzing the decisions, I need to be very brief enough in summarizing the reviews and its findings and its team coordination in order to ensure the review management has a separate expert team in order to approve the available elements which are all outstanding. To be simple, I'll give an example. So, how many people are in a team has to be executed and convinced by a project manager? Say, for example, 5 people in a team. The one fellow who is going to drive all the 5 people in a team, which will be like compliances testing, and the guy who is going to monitor all the 5 people's progress at the end of the week, the end of the loop, will be triggered out, and it will be distributing and it will be focusing on how the significances are identified from the extended way of report. So the report what I have submitted earlier is going to be a similar report which is highly influential, which is highly, I mean, making the entire stakeholders to fit into a next major finding existence. So, for each and every project determination, I should finally stick on with a target which is executed, which is, summarized, which is recommended, which are all issue oriented. So, for each and every issue, I should have a one page write up. So what does the issue is going to teach me? So the length of the session, the overall session carried about for a day. This issue has been resolved for a day. So the withstanding capability of the issue is so very huge. That's the reason the project is getting extended. So why to make arrangements for these kind of issues? What are all the consequences or the backfiring elements I'm going to face it off when I'm going to trigger these kind of issues? So in order to list it out, the compliance might be from these area: lack of project determination. If there is no proper idea, randomly, if I'm choosing a title, going for a report, getting an execution, giving them a report which is digitalized, which is fabricated, it doesn't mean anything. Ultimately, summarization of all the people's contribution right from the day one till today. Suppose if there are about 5 to 6 leaders or 5 to 7 mentors, project mentors, or project monitors, all those 7 impressions must be there as a record. Then only I can identify the entire actualizations which are all happening day to day. That day to day report has to be uploaded. If it is going to be an online session, it is going to be getting uploaded, and those uploaded elements will be scroll down in order to make the entire news feed. As we scroll down in Instagram, a project must have a portal connections too, and those news feeds have to be scrolled down in order to identify the compliance and to make them as a non-compliance. So the better way of making them understanding or making the entire project to get into a compression, to make the entire project to compress it into a simple tablet called metric. So I have some metrics and rubrics for measuring the inefficiency of a project. When I try to metric these kind of issues, I can easily identify where are all the trapping area and what are all the, I mean, loopholes in which the project is getting escaped. And those loopholes to be identified, it has to be filled with the necessary gap fillers. Then only a project's metric can be published in a higher standards. Otherwise, the amount of issues, otherwise, the amount of severity or the amount of failure will be more. So, by that point of time, the recommendations, whatever given earlier, will not work out, will not be fulfilled. It leads to closure of the project, even though after having so many reviews, as in the previous session, special review, consolidated review, everything will be in a, I mean, waste of manner. And finally, then the entire recommendations have to be put in forth with respect to following steps which are all to be dealt on final phase of your job, that is project closure. So if these things are not arranged properly, I'm facing my own problem of closing it. I'm facing my own problem of non consistency. I'm leading towards non budgetary or non tasking elements. The deadline is approaching me at a faster rate. So my novelty or my domain specification or my feeding mechanism is everything is coming down. If I'm looking back, I'll be having lot of failures because of making all the things which is lacking in experiences, which is taking the utmost categorization, which is taking a lot of distractions, lot of, nullified focus. To be very precise, these are all the nullified focuses, which are all unnecessary and non, effective tasks, which are all acting as a resources. So, if those non effective or ineffective resources are taking a vital role in making a consistency, it becomes the projects looking back. So if I try to look back, the entire pathway so far the project has traveled will have total null functions. So nothing is coming out as a specific factor, or nothing is coming out as a encouraging elements, or there is nothing called feedbacking. There is no entry system or exit system properly. If there is no proper entry and exit system for a particular project, it is a waste of time. Slowly, the dots are getting unconnected. So the following steps, what are all the steps I can ensure? to make the project closure as a reasonable one. Obviously, I know the project is going to close. It is like post-mortem. So making a post-mortem for a body is nothing but I know the project has ended. It is no furthermore going to have a lively factors. But even though I should know the reason for a particular inefficiency, for a particular death. So the project's death has to be identified, the reason, the root cause analysis, everything has to be identified by arranging a postmortem. Then only I should know in order to make a learning throughout the entire project. Suppose if, for example, if a MBBS as a practitioner is going to do a postmortem for a body, it is like executing a project. It is like taking some efficient time in making all the analysis, which spare part of a human body is not functionalizing. So because of this failure only, the guy had sudden death. Because of this particular lungs issue, the guy had a sudden death. So it is a project. So there is no meager information. There is no prior intimation. There is nothing called any kind of information which is being given by any, nutritionalist or any kind of pediatrician or any kind of, medical related persons. But the task and the resources and the deadlines, everything has been given to them earlier. If you are not taking care of your health, obviously it is going to be the deadline. So slowly the Medi catalog, what we say as prescription or what we say as data, that is the patient's historical data towards medical history, everything will be documented and they will be warning them. And the doctors will be warning the patients, stating that the project's closeness, that the project is nothing but the life period. So, in spite of these many pressures and distractions, some human, body may accustom with some additive elements, and those additive elements are nothing but making a clear-cut post-mortem of the project. Why the project has failed. I should know the reason. If I'm a doctor, out of 100 operations, if I'm successful in 98, what is the reason for two failure? I should know. I cannot justify that out of 100 I have succeeded more. What is the reason for those two failure? That is the vital factor throughout the entire project. If I am making 98 success operations and two failure operations because of humans, body adaptability or because of my own mistakes or because of poor calibration, poor networking, poor, idea identification. So the ultimate problem of a doctor is to diagnose. So which I could not do. As a patient, I could not do. So I'm going to a doctor, consulting. The diagnosis has been done. Only for a diagnosis, we are paying him a doctor fee for about 300 to 500. So assume a doctor as a project manager. He is doing a survey in my body. Then only he is diagnosing the problem, like he is having a tumor, he is having a heart attack, he is having a, angio issue. Some kind of a problem is being diagnosed by a doctor, which is making the entire functional easier. If it is going to be a easier diagnosis, obviously the solution could be given in an easier manner. The same thing happens in the project too. Even if it is a live project, I should know how to ideate it. What are all the ideologies I have? What are all the innovative natures I have? How I'm getting inspired with the existing standard? How I'm giving the solution to the future problems, future predictions. So without making all these things, it is a great time for me to appear in the screening panel, represent my project, give them the report, have a cross-cultural analysis, make them the feedback to get into the next level of information, documenting those evidences and informations are revised. So slowly nowadays projects are getting transited to a non-paper work. For 10 days, 10 years or 15 years back, we had a session of making everything in a particular needy attention. That is paperwork. Without a paperwork or without a file, none of the project manager will have a impression. They need to update their files and then and there. For every 5 years, they make an auditing, and those 5 year data will be like a 5 year plan. And that 5 year plan will include all the functionalizing areas of our organization. It might take a huge hectic process. But now every day we are getting some all cloud activities and everything has been stored in a drive. Everything is being connected to a, mail ID. So when I try to figure it out as a mail ID, it is giving me as a slide, it is giving me as a sheet, it is giving me as a docs. It is giving me as an entire report. Analytics, Google Analytics is there. Google Scholar is there. Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Slides. So all these are all the vital examples for today's digital non-paper works. So when I go for non-paper work, complete paperwork is getting terminated. So internal partners, external partners, vendors, legal proof oriented activities, everything is getting signed in. It is getting into a cloud. So by showing my cloud activities every day, I can make the audience or can make the target people who are all the, I mean, attention seekers, all will get approved by the stakeholders just by making it as live session. If I go for a live YouTube live or Facebook live, it becomes a hype on that particular day. So that it becomes a sensation for a project. So everything I need to have address all the outstanding elements. I need to address it. So those addressing factors, which are all nothing but approving from the higher order people who are all in contact with both internal and external stakeholders. So I need to judge. Take for example, if I'm doing an auditing on outstanding payments of my organization so far, right from January 1, 2024 till October 2024, if I'm going for a survey on outstanding payments, if I'm going to have a Google Sheets or Google Analytics, I can give you the report without Chat GPT, without any other external resources, just by having my advanced Microsoft Excel or advanced MS Google Docs and Google Slides or Google Analytics, which is available in our mail ID too. Just by using our mail ID, other functionalities, everyone might have used Gmail and Drive. Apart from Gmail and Drive, we have other things which are all into a cloud, which is eligible to give me a report in just 2 or 5 minutes maximum. I can give you a report in just 5 minutes stating that this is going to be the prediction of my company in the next 5 years. So there is nothing called any other AI tool. Without any intervention of AI tool, I can give you a complete report which is non-paper work. So all non-paper work can also be done. So how many third parties are involved? Who are all the contractors? Who are all the suppliers? Who are all the vendors? So I can connect people easily just by sharing it. It is highly confidential and moreover it is highly transparent too. For everything we have a tool. For everything a particular analysis can be done and those analysis can be projected and it will be witnessed in all the medium or all the forum in which the project is going to be a part and parcel of the entire organization. So in which signing in and signing off just is your role play. So it is going to create a proof too. There is a conversation. I can identify the people who are all using the Google Slides and Google Docs. It has been historically recorded. How many times I'm opening the sheet? It is recorded. It is auto savable. So whenever I'm going for any kind of usages in Google Docs and Google Slides, it is easy for me to understand these apps are also available for both iOS and I mean Play Store. So all the apps can be downloaded in my mobile phone just by giving 10 minutes of work. I can complete the entire report and the extraction is done easily. This is not only for payment of costings or payment of financial analysis. Every individual analysis can be done for which we have a tool called Solver, Solver, Solver in our Excel. So under the tool called Solver, we have so many statistical analysis in which the company can put forth and I can give them the analytical report too, which is given in analytical tabulations and as well as a graphical plot also. So by using simple Excel, I can determine the entire up and down of a company just by giving them the input. I can easily make them understand what is the resources in which the resources are lacking. So with this, the complete paperwork can be replaced with the non-paper work too. So coming to the elementalizations of resources which are all to be assembled, it is very simple. When I try to make an external who is going to be a part of this entire project duration, blocking all the people who are all non-recommended, blocking all the people who are all non-relevant, blocking all the people who are all unskilled. So without any experiences or without any further, knowledge on the project, if someone is coming in as a fresher, this fresher could also be given an opportunity in order to make the project into five categorization. Number one is, as I told, the project postmortem reports, paperworking, resources, and archiving the documents. For each and everything, we have an archive too. And we need to finally celebrate the success which is not even done in majority of organization because they don't have digi proof. So there is an app called Umang. I just posted in chat box. So in this particular app, Umang, Umang, so we have almost all the functionalities which are all digitally available, digitally gathered. So when I try to figure it out, this particular app has around all the governmental and non-governmental portals in which it is combined under a common roof. So here I can identify employee provident fund organization who is going to give my PF benefits, and across all the subsidies given by all the gas agencies, right from generally speaking JNK, that is Jammu Kashmir, till Kanyakumari, all the regional oriented government and non-governmental associative bodies are collected under a common roof called Umang. In this app, the entire work has been made with the login just by giving 7-digit PIN number. If you are enrolling yourself with your Aadhaar number, it is getting into a project which is unifying all the consumer beneficiary elements. So those who are not having this app as of now, go to your Play Store or iOS, download it. It is both compatible in Apple version and Android version. So the notification what you get from Umang will be highly utilizable as a citizen of India. So when I try to make all the elements under a common roof, I can consolidate it and it will give you a drive to. You can store all your Digi documents, right from your licensing, your registration of your assets, your LIC insurance copies, your policy documents, and if you are going for any kind of subsidies, those subsidy ID cards. If you are having any governmental schemes, benefits, those benefits are also recorded under your name, common identity number called Aadhaar number. By just by giving a 12-digit Aadhaar number, all my documents will get displayed over there. And this is the easiness, and this is what a non-paperless work what I'm going to enjoy. So for which I have spent a team in making all the older projects, all the current projects, to migrate, to use them, to blend them, and then to share the knowledge. As a layman, if the layman is having this app, he can show all the proof from this app itself. Right from the basic KYC of an individual, the project has been executed towards making the greater documentation, and that is not an easy task. Assume that if I'm going out with a huge file, having all my documents as original and showing and witnessing everywhere rather than having it in my pocket mobile phone. So the documentation process becomes easier. It has to keep a track of all the works done, and it is going to have a QR code, and those QR code is going to share all the details regarding the consumer or the user. So this is a excellent user interface platform in which the provisions are giving you a clarity on how it is going to give you legal teams, yeah, manpower teams, yeah, financial teams, and then technical teams. All the teams are behind this app, and this app is updated every week. Why? Because it is having 100 plus government body associations. So all the people across India, any part of India can use this app, and that particular app is giving you all the documents which are all demanded by the government when you step out of your home. So this is why it has been made easier, and post by this pandemic situation, it has created a hype. For the past 4 years, the app has tremendously developed a lot. So these kind of, older records, how I can prefer, say for example, IPR, intellectual property rights. It was initiated in the year 1970. That was post independence, 1.5 decades after independence. So once after creating an IPR, that is patent, copyrights, trademarks, it is also a project. Without knowing the previous records or previous people who are all the backbones of a patent, I cannot assume my patent is a raw one or a new one. I need to, analyze all the documents for which I need to get a portal access. That portal access is nothing but given by the government of India or Tamil Nadu, who is going to govern, and the entire governance of the project will also pull me down. That is why the major political scenario of entire projects are not released so far, and it is still pending in a desk. It is not coming out as an end product. It is still pending as a progress. It is not at all coming out as a document because of its poor access. Once the access has been decentralized, it might give an pathway. It might give a new learnings. It might give a solution to the older issue. It might give provisions for my entire accessing and trailing out towards the work done. And slowly it becomes the building elements of my rewarding system. And finally it is going to make the entire blooming characteristics of all the task, all the loyalty, or all the works which are all harder and smarter together. And finally, if the resources are not utilized properly, slowly if the resources are lessering or reducing, it will have a project closure, and those closure starts with document lacks, documents misuses, documents non-deliverables. So these are all the primary reasons in which the projects are getting terminated, fortunately or unfortunately. So if I'm going to the satisfaction, if the project is fine, if the project is kept on track with all the elements, if I'm having transparency, if I'm not doing anything unethical, I can show my transparency. Major projects are, apart from ethics, they are doing something which is irrelevant, which is not at all advisable. So the entire system is non-transparent. If the project documents are be signed by the appropriate authority, if the approving authority is really good, if they are going to entirely project the projects into a next level dimension of ethical behavior, obviously it could have a better, vendoring system, vendoring agreements. But when I tried to figure it out, it becomes the payoffs. It's tried to give the lot of payoffs and lot of layoffs. Suddenly, all kind of documents are banned for external usages, and slowly the access are reduced. And finally, one day, the entire access has been banned. Suddenly, the transition takes place. If the transition is so very sudden, the project personnel or the lack of equipments or the lack of utility area or the lack of measuring methodologies, so these are all the lacks which are all being made as a mistake, and those mistakes are making me to come down or making me to go out of the project, either reducing my input level or totally eradicating the project. So while making a project, everyone's ideology is behind on completion of the project only, not on the qualitative aspects, or not on the transition supporting, or not on the release of a new resource, or getting an updation. So once if you update yourself in a particular project, then only the resources are sharpened. The resources will make the team to trigger furthermore. It will make myself to equip furthermore. Then only the project's utility will be very good compared with the other references. Or otherwise, it will make you to close the projects because the deserving credit is not fulfillable, and it will give the way for the upcoming queued project which is standing behind you. So those projects standing behind my project will eat my project. They will grab the opportunity. They will grab the control. They will make the entire crediting system, and slowly the archiving and the teams who are all being the accessing will start vulnerable. So it is the reason in which the archiving documentations are referred as eventual failure. It is also would like to ensure the major problems from the teams which are all non analyzable, which are all highly retrospective, in which is a kind of workshop I should do while I'm completing a project. Both in the success area and in the failure area, I should do a real time hands on training. If I'm expert in making a hands-on training, then outcomes are easily predictable. The reason behind each and every failure can be predictable and which could not be repeated in the upcoming iterations. This is why we are archiving documents, maybe because it is stored in an archived bin. So those archived bin can be reanalyzed. If after a 6 months or 10 months of period, I may get some new equipments or I may get some new opportunity. So by that point of time, I'll be getting a new analyzing factor or a new tool in my hand. By using those new tool, I'll be coming back. So the comeback of a project manager is not a new one in this project closure. I may come back. So for example, Yamaha RX 100, it is going to hit the market again. Talks are going on. That is ambassador is going to hit the market again with a new look. So if these two products are coming back to the market, obviously it becomes a hype. Why? Because those consumers who had this excellent, product when they were in the period of 80s and 90s, they had a excellent version of these products, and still those who have the same products with them have fine tuning the same product again and again. It becomes a retrospective factor. So the retrospective elements are nothing but the one which was highly influential, highly gatherable, highly making the impression. The footprints of these products are never vanishing. The footprint given by Ambassador, the footprint given by Yamaha RX Center, the footprint given by Royal Enfield, which will not, go back. Even though majority of the newcomers are hitting the market, those highlighters and evergreen products will not move away from the market, which is the reason for their consistency in success. And that is because of project retrospective meeting. So while I'm making this meeting, I should ask some basic questions. What are all those questions? The general purpose of conducting this meeting is to identify the goal, to identify the actual outcome, to reasonalize or to mention the reasons of those outcomes, and finally, what are all the similar approaches available. If I'm doing a approach towards project management, if the same approach is done by either of you or someone else who is a competitor to me, will it be ready enough for me to complete the entire projects on time? That is without any similarity. Suppose in a common competition, if I'm seeing or if I'm witnessing someone who is the competitor taking my opportunity first. So as of FIFO, that is first in, first out, or last in, first out. If it is going to be the concept of first in, first out, the project idea has been stolen from me and someone has demonstrated the same projects. By that point of time, if I go and present the same topic, obviously I'll be out of the game. So the concept is first in, first out. If it is going to be first in, first out, I should be very careful in analyzing the project's theme. Then only I can demonstrate the project, and which will improve the team morality and ethics. A team member out of entire influencing factor of the team member is going out. The meetings conducted by the team members, which will praise them a lot as a team building togetherness. So there comes the point of strategy implementation that is done only by the team, not by a single entity. So don't stick on with any kind of single entity to make the entire experiences and share the successful nature of the project. And together, if the project is getting into a retrospective elements, they tend to improve their moral. And finally, they try to develop the retrospective elements in a clustering way, in a actional oriented way, and in a behavioral way. And slowly it becomes a practice, and that practice becomes the standard, and that standard becomes the policy, and which is repeatedly followed. If this policy is not approved, and if I'm repeating the same non-approved policy again and again, which becomes the reason for closure of project. So I need to understand only one thing in this concept of reporting retrospective project evaluation. This is nothing but once after getting approval by the team members of presentations and transparency, I can easily promote the team to develop furthermore or to venture into a new channel, which will create them an opportunity to register their footprint, to make a reasonable change. to give a valuable suggestion, to give a significant recommendation. These are all the things which we experience if I'm getting into retrospective elements. So once after making a retrospective elements, what are all the methods I can ensure in which the projects are going in a successful way? I should know how the meeting has to be prepared. I should know who are all the immediate audience to me, and I should create a report which is giving all the roadmap of my success and failure, which is a topmost peak point and the lowmost negative point. And I should add a respective agenda which is clearly giving me or outlining me on different evaluations of a meeting. And then the meeting has to be scheduled priorly. It has to be an advanced intimation in order to make everyone involved in the meeting, and I should invite everyone in order to be their opinion seekers. So when I try to invite everyone to a particular meeting, I should sit together. I should conduct an associative meeting. It should be a comprehensive meeting rather than a monopolistic meeting. I should get opinions from everyone. I mean, evaluate all the introduction of all the products towards a particular team members who are all the peer group members. Rather than team members, they are called as peer group members, which are all highly invitable and highly arrangeable for their retrospective meetings, which are all planned in the upcoming phases too. So it is like a schedule given to them, posted to them, and how many intervals I'm going to conduct an interview, or how many intervals I'm going to conduct a meeting, or a workshop, or a agenda, or a brainstorming session, or what kind of name we are conducting. It is going to be a interaction. So slowly the projects are reviewed again and again, and which are discussed from a pre-made report and a post-made report. So there might be difference. There might be some 10 to 15 percentage of difference in the pre-made report and the post-made report. If it is going to be a pre-made report, the team will functionalize on the pre-made report with all the relevant data. If it is going to be the post-made report, obviously there will be with some observation. So in pre-made report, I will be discussing the team's functionality. I will be delegating the work based on their area of expertise. But whereas in the post implementation, I can see only the observations, and observations can be counted on their team contribution. By giving them the responsibility, I'll be marking with their marks. Say, for example, seven people are in the team, I'll be giving 100 marks for each and every individual. I'll be marking out of 100 how much the team member 1 takes place, team 2 takes place. That is, a third member of the team takes place. Till seventh one, I should note down all the marks of the seven people, and then discuss the identification issues with respect to desired outcome and actual outcome. So all the relevant details have to be collected irrespective of any kind of, updations, or even if it is a closed projects also, I can take it for reference. I can take it for presentation. I can give my feedback, share my feedback, give them the comment. Out of the comment, I can take a learning. And those learning can be given as a potential inputs for my betterment of a project. And everything comes as a usual way of making the timeline. So for which I need to give a timeline to them. So for making the timeline, I should stick on with agile life cycling. So are all making this agile retrospective meeting, I should reflect on an iteration to make the projects better. So whereas the retrospective meetings, I'll be conducting a meeting with the reference of the previous meeting. Whereas the agile meetings are nothing but it was to celebrate the win-win situation, or to celebrate the correct iteration situation in which the both effective framework have been identified. So with respect to identifying the challenges and correcting them quickly, it is to build an idea which is figuring it out with enormous iterations. So once after figuring it out, enormous iterations, I'll be making the roadmap creation. I'll be making a pre-release planning. I'll be making a sprint plan. I'll be giving all the daily meetings, daily targets, and then I'll come into the agile retrospective. So take for example, if I'm going to be a part of project planning, I should identify the opportunity. I should remember the guidelines. I should give it in a iterative way. I should build a scope. I should build a guideline. Then only the agile methodology will fit in. So once after finalizing the plan of a project, I'm going for a roadmap. Here, all the smaller ones, all the larger ones, all the completed ones, all the backlog ones, all the deliverables, undeliverables, everything will be segregated. Either it is stopping in this point, I should know why it is stopping. Either it is continuing in this point, why it is continuing. So those things has to be identified in the roadmap creation. And finally, if I'm completing the roadmap as a successful one, if I'm giving it as a, I mean, expected agenda for the new 5 year plan, 2030 5 year plan, for the next 5 year plan, I'll be releasing a new plan in which all the backlogs will be like fulfilled category with the new scope or a new assignment. Then I'm going for a sprint planning, which is nothing but what the person is responsible for, like a sprint race. I should carry on with the one who is going to take the responsibility, one who is going to spend some time on supporting in their responsibility. So both the supporters and both the responsible persons, both the individual will take the cumulative responsibility in the sprint planning. And then daily meetings or will be the progressive briefing session. That is the daily meetings is like around 10 to 15 minutes just to post their polls alone, opinions alone. It is not a kind of interaction. Daily meetings should not be dragged for more than 1 hour. Then I cannot work. In some of the institutions, they'll be conducting meetings every 1 hour once. And finally, they don't know what is the agenda of the meeting and they sit together, chit chat, and go away. It should not be in that way. Throughout every sprint planning, throughout entire release planning, I'll be discussing. So the same discussion, if I do it in daily meeting, it is unwanted. It is unnecessary. So I should go to a daily meeting with some basic progress what I have done. I should exhibit the progress in not more than 10 minutes. I'll come back to my work. Then only the daily meetings are effective. And finally, retrospective elements are how the essential part of a project are all identified with the delivering factor. So the working filaments or the working features of agile retrospective meetings are all coming together with existing reviews. And those reviews are accumulated and manipulated further to make them readable. So once after collecting a data or communicating the data or deciding what to do, I'll make an analysis on how the insights could be generated, what happened, why it is happening, who is the reason, when is going to come again. So when it is going to come again, which are all the big deal today. So I should know the reason for all kind of moderation, all kind of scams happening in a project. Suppose if I'm spending around 500 rupees, the actual budget allocated is about 1,000 rupees. Where does the 500 go? So those scams, those eye washers or those stage setters, icebreakers must know how to collaborate. If I'm ready enough to collaborate, it means that I'm ready enough to transparent my details. So how many projects are highly transparent and showing off all the details with them? If there is nothing called wrong, if everything going on well, why the data collector does not represented as it is? Every institution is collecting an audit report. Why it is not published in websites? So how many people are ready enough to show their entire plus and minus in their websites? They are not showing their limitations. They are only showing their highlights. Why do they make this? Because something is non-transparent. They don't want to accomplish this. They don't want to establish this because the purpose becomes diluted. So the purpose of promotion, the purpose of advertisement is to enable my website. But ultimately, no one is going to see the website, and I'm not having any tracking data. How many visitors are coming and seeing my website? So if I'm taking the responsibility of developing it in the back end office, so the back end office work is still engaging with me to enable how many people are ready enough in making the website as a medium of or a forum of promotion, and those patterns are highly responsible. So don't leave those tools. These are all the live tools in which the project can be screened up. I can see my project everywhere. So everywhere the data is being collected only from the secondary source of data is nothing but a public forum. That public forum is nothing but a website. In major institutions the website is still not working. We have a contact us details in the end of the web page. We'll be having a form to be submitted. I'll be getting a call back. Will I get a call back? Out of 100 companies, how many companies are giving me a call back? If I ask for a tender, if I ask for a quotation, how many companies are giving me a relevant answers or a query? Whether the queries are fully satisfied, everywhere 24 bar 7 people are in the chat box. 24 bar 7, all 365 days, people are working in all kind of BPO, business process outsourcing. If I go for any kind of query calls, I'm not getting connected to the concerned representative. This is the lackage of project. They are doing meetings, they are conducting n number of meetings. But when I'm going for any kind of compliance sharing, I could not get connected with the relevant retrospective person, which is a lackage of inciting. And finally, the decision what I'll do, I'll stop with this brand and go for a new brand because it becomes a hatred. It becomes a idea, poor idea generation. It becomes a negative image. So slowly I'm ignoring this. I'm going to a new product, which is because of not meeting with the responsible standards. So the meeting worksheet has to be updated daily. Then only I can know how many first call resolutions I've taken, how many new calls have been unanswered, how many unanswered calls are there. Suppose if you take a report on unanswered queries of a particular organization, it will be surely, I'm giving you a guarantee, it will be 1,000 plus. Minimally, I'm taking. Minimally talking, it will be like 1,000 plus. So where is the continuous improvement here? Kaizen. There is no Kaizen here. So there is nothing called continuous improvement, but we are telling, but we are shouting like everywhere we have a continuous improvement, everywhere we have showing a progress, everything what we projected into the outside world is a scam. So the settling factor is not making the thinking analysis or to the meeting up the standards or to the engagement is not sticking with the standard, I hope. The agile factors are all making those sticking elements to come out as a competitors. Unless and otherwise, if I have a transparency in me, I can make myself any kind of activity which is highly impressible, which is highly, I mean, continuous improvement. I can easily witness it. I can dedicate the entire organization to work behind the continuous improvement. But throughout the project, there is nothing called a continuous improvement, and there is nothing called a transparency. And everyone there on their way, they are doing their jobs. There is no unity, there is no integration, there is no sharing of communication. And finally, I'll do the same work again without even knowing the reason. The same work has been done for n number of times, and finally, it end up in a mess. So the relevant factors of making the retrospective meeting to be effective is because of lack of postmortem what we are not doing. As in medical field, every organization must do a postmortem report. Even if I'm failing, why I'm failing? What is the reason of sudden dominant rate? Dormant rate or a dominant rate, both are happening today parallelly. The dormancy, how many dormant rate or more higher and peaker in a particular point. If this dormant rate is higher and higher, slowly the company will wind up and project will get closed and there will be zero consistency. So most of the lackages and these kind of effects are really outstanding or really into a open window system. If it is going to be an open window system, it will be a very good success evaluation, and it's easily unpacking the entire tragedy which are all happening in a unfolded way. And if I try to figure it out these issues easily, it becomes a standard measuring of a progress in a team. And once after making it as a long time investment, a separate questionnaire has to be created, give them questionnaire, get them the responses, moderate it, keep them in track, analyze them, set a clear cut goal, brief them the result then and there, don't hide it. Then and there, make the results visible and give them why the results have come down, why the results are gone up. Make the closure of the loop then and there. Don't carry on the task. This is the reason for majority of project closure. If I carry on the task without closing the loop is not attained. If I'm starting a work on Monday, I should complete it by Sunday itself. I should not take the same work to the next Monday. So similarly, all the section oriented examination instructions, everything has to be facilitated only by the project manager or only by a unbiased person who can solicit the entire feedbacking and the entire appropriate factors and the entire sponsoring elements, which are all the key area in making a project successful rather than closure. So if I'm not doing this on a institutional key functional area, if it is not recommended by the institutions, surely I'm telling everyone that communication of those identified reports, which are all original, not a fabricated one, which are all original, have to be kept as a template for further summarization. Then only we can ensure the completion or the creating an agenda or for the lesson learned or for the stakeholder satisfaction. We have any kind of reasons we can keep on pile up. Those files have to be maintained and those files have to be checked then and there by auditor and auditee. Audit team has to come in, put in forth all the outstanding elements which are all requiring the follow up. Then additional inputs can be given. If the work is not done, the responsible person have to sign and authorize it. If it is not done, it is connected as it is considered as a non-conformance, and we'll be getting like so much of NCRs as we do get in our company. How much NCRs I'm going to get? So those NCRs are nothing but making the projects to nullify, and it just keep on getting into an outstanding elements. So, on this particular case is highly ridiculous and highly unethical because the policies, the regulations, the possible decisions, the concerned environment, and the resources, which are all fundamentally wrong, fundamentally, which is away from the conceptual framework, which is not at all relevant to the area of study, which is totally making the forum corrupted, polluted. This is poor judgmental, or this is poor achievable, non-achievable classification, which are all getting into archived dump bin, and fundamental feeling and fundamental principles and fundamental ideology behind the project is not at all getting into stream. And this is the main reason for major ethical conduct or misconduct or happening. So with this, we'll close the session for today. Any doubts on this, you can come forward. So, in this third module discussion, the yesterday's first half and today's second half have been detailed. So, you can refer your books and PowerPoint hint points. That is how the postmortem is taking place, which is going to be the second half of this conceptual project review process. So, with this, the module 3 is getting completed. So, in the upcoming session, we'll be having a discussion on module 4, that is how ethics. So, till now, we had a discussion on project management, project closure, project review, the reason for project closure. In the upcoming session, we'll be having the second half of the subject called ethics and digital management. So slowly we'll be having a discussion on digitalizations too, and where the digitalizations are getting into a binding factor. So ethics and digital management will be dealt on in the furthermore aspects of classes. Around four classes we'll be having a discussion on other two modules. So this is how the plan goes on. So please stick on with the plan and make sure that if you are having any queries or discussions or classifications, please come forward. Your queries are welcome. Any queries?
No from my side, Professor.
Fine.
No,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you. So have the, I mean, PowerPoint in your drive, store it in your drive, and utilize it during the time of preparation of exams. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor.